Michael McGilligan, CEO of Viridian Developments. So this is our take on regenerative property development, regenerative real estate development, regenerative development as it is. We come through the lineage of Regenesis Institute, and our work is really a developmental development model that builds consciousness, capacity, and capability for people to fall in love with each other, themselves, and the living world. So the work that we do is beyond real estate. And this is one of our projects here. So this is Sun Village's model in Queanbeyan 50-unit development. Wasn't set for regenerative development in any way. So there's a couple of different terms that, a couple of different angles that people take on this. I went through all the, green building certifications, and living futures, passive house, green star, disability accommodation, permaculture, all the way until I got to Regenesis Institute. So without being the regen police, there's a couple of different ways you can think about regenerative development. It could be that this building is going to have permaculture all the way around, food systems. The ground floor is going to have a walk-in functional organic kitchen going on, and we're going to have solar panels on the roof, maybe a roof garden that feeds the cafe, and that's all going to be regenerative. That's one way of looking at it. Another way of looking at that would be that that's a building with a fancy garden and some solar panels. So our sort of system is looking at how the work we do can elevate not just the project you're working on, but the place or town that you're developing in, and the bioregion or water catchment or watershed or larger living system that you're working in. Each one of these projects is a living whole that has its own character, its own autonomy, and its own way of being, its own essential nature, and that's what we're always looking for. So starting with the development, we've got the 50 units. And this project is going to be like a build-to-rent model. So we are developing the asset with investors, putting together a investment syndicate together. So up to 20 people will be coming together to invest and hold this for the long term. It's going to be managed through Sun Village's management company for the long term, and there's going to be a high function of development and contribution and community development that goes through this model. So just at the why this video actually started getting made was because while I was looking to stack up this project into the future as the hold, I was looking at the different revenue streams that could come. So not just the initial equity development of the construction of the development, the actual holds that the net operating income will generate the returns for everyone across, and any excess over what's been set for the investors will go into making the place more affordable. It's an excellent affordable housing model that some villages come up with. So I'm looking here at like the original, what we're talking about, the cafe, income from parking, internet, power, because this whole building is going to be held as one asset and rented all in one through the foundation or the not-for-profit. And so it was at this point I was thinking, okay, so that's the basics, that's the usual, regenerative development. We've got permaculture gardens and people can feed themselves, and the food goes in the cafe, and we can reduce people's rent because of the hours that they work in the garden. All lovely and all pretty obvious, really. It's not really something that we should be aspiring to in regeneration. It's really just that's just common sense of how we should be communing and developing our built environment. So regenerative development is really looking at raising the bar on this and bringing it to understanding that this project or this building or this community, that is really what this building is about. A building is only infrastructure to support the development and the livelihoods of the people that are living in it and the community of it. So This is a very light touch on our regen lineage. How we would normally start is with a story of place. So we go back 400 million years, understand who the living being is, this whole water catchment. So for now, we're speaking with the Murrumbidgee catchment in that area. It could be Queanbeyan, the town, but we're sort of seeing that it's a larger water catchment area. So we would like to know the conscious being that we're developing with before we start this, to understand how this building as a nested project can have a beneficial and developmental influence on the town, and how the town can have a regenerative influence on the whole watershed. The issue I've got at the moment, and the reason why I'm doing this super light touch regen, this is not how I would do a proper development, is because we have an asset that's sitting there and the time cost of money. We've got $4 million worth of investment in it already. DA approved. I've got to get it stacked up for new building prices, and this is the due diligence on the highest and best use, or the best thing that we can do out of this. There's a potential for this building to become the Bioregional Learning Center for the Bioregional Institute for this region. And so I've kind of got to do this bastardized version of light touch regen, so I can model something to inform how I would raise with investors to continue the investigation of the storing place that we're doing starting this year. Investors can't wait 6 to 12 months. Because I came into this project late, this is not how I would start it, but we're here now, and it's an excellent beginning. So yes, regenerative building, permaculture, community, organic kitchens, farming, all the rest of it. What now? What next? What's its contribution? So stepping out of just the project cycle, we're looking now at how could this project build more. This is a simple triad framework. Build more will, being, and function in the larger whole. So that is, how can this project create more inspiration, more conscious living, and more utility for the wider Queanbeyan community outside of the project? While holding that, how could the work that we do in Queanbeyan build more inspiration, conscious being, and functionality for the whole of the Murrumbidgee water catchment? A way to get to that is to think of the vitality, viability, and evolutionary potential. So for any sort of endeavor to really be to reflect the principles of living systems, it needs to have vitality, it needs to have energy, it needs to have aliveness, and it needs to be able to contribute that aliveness to the larger whole that it's nested in. It's got to have viability, so it's got to be able to, it's got to be financially viable. It's got to be able to feed and resource and nourish itself, and also the wider living being, i.e. the project Queanbeyan. It's got to be able to contribute some type of nourishment and evolutionary potential. So this is really that spark of chaos in the order. I like to think of it as like, yes, we've got this beautiful process that we're doing and it's all well and good, but over the course of time, things change. So with that in mind, you need to have you need to bake into the project a mechanism of creativity and evolution that grows and evolves with time, and it keeps lighting up and sparking and getting people to reactivate and revision and reassess where they are in their life and the community. So this is really super light touch, as I said, of how I would then think about this whole living being within the wider community and its contribution, and how I would reflect that back in to potential income that might come into the project that acts as nodal points of intervention into the local community. So one of the ways that might come out of this really light investigation, as we said, what actually came up was the bioregional learning center for the area. Now, we haven't tested that in the field. We have no idea what's going to happen or come of the storing place process. I'll chuck that in the comments. But it's a premise to test. No one are experts in our lineage. We are just adventurers, explorers, and community celebrators, really, who come together with community to help them find ourselves together. And so what would a bioregional learning center in this area activate, bring in different types of clients, business models into here? Maybe it could be a type of business incubator, startup incubator that comes, environmental startup incubator. There could be a philanthropic that wants to move in and take on a permanent lease within the building. It could be that the actual building itself, part of these rooms that we are looking at. So this is ground floor, come in through here. These are the kitchens, the commercial restaurant. No, sorry, wrong. Where am I? So this is the lounge, and this could be this could be the head of the learning center for tutorial rooms and all the rest of it. And these public spaces could be the amenities for whatever you're sort of developing. But that could be that operational business for a startup hub or something like that, or philanthropic organizations over in these other sort of other premises here in this lower unit. And stacking all these sorts of businesses in a coherent way where rather than random sort of leaseholds in the building, they network together to create more than the sum of their parts through a shared narrative, which is embodied by a shared community in the building that are telling a shared story, that are developing the narrative and the wider living being of Queanbeyan, which is contributing to the whole of the Murrumbidgee water catchment, which is part of the Murray-Darling Basin, which basically accounts for probably, I think, 70% of the food and maybe water production for the population of Australia. So these are the sort of nodal points of intervention and nested systems that we look at in regenerative development. And this is just the beginning.